Hello, everybody. This is the Indiana State Police Roadshow. I'm Sergeant Rich Myers with the Indiana State Police Alliance and Cops for Kids, who's sponsoring our roadshow. We appreciate you being here and being sponsored. Thanks to Tom Trial, puts us on YouTube each and every week behind the scenes, and have as my guest today, recently retired, Rick Hammer, Lieutenant Rick Hammer, recently retired, looking good, looking sharp, and we're going to talk to Rick about his years here on the department because it's kind of unique. Are you the longest running, or do you know that? Have you had the most years on the department?
There might have been some. I think there were some civilians in communications that had more than years than I had.
Well, Rick just retired from the lab, but he had 46 years and 27 days on the Indiana State Police through, again, the starting out as was that a civilian position then, Rick, through the dispatch?
As a dispatcher, yes.
Was it? Okay. Because at one time it wasn't it? Was it considered an officer at one time?
Well, when I started, they were considered limited police.
Okay.
And they told us that we had authority within our radio room area where we worked if anything ever happened. I'm not sure how that worked. Never had to apply it. So
now, where did you start at? And what year did you start?
Started in December of 1969.
Okay.
And started at the state office building on the first floor in the dispatch center there.
So what made you apply, and were you interested in police work? Thought this would get you in the door, or was it just something that came along?
Well, I'd kind of decided in high school that this is what I wanted to do. Dave Mollenkoff was a PIO sergeant for Indianapolis, and he came and spoke at our school, and
you still want to do it after?
I still wanted to do it, yeah, after he got done. And so I actually originally went to Speedway Police Department because I lived in Speedway.
Yeah.
And talked to them because they had dispatchers, and they had just recently switched over to enforcement people as dispatchers instead of civilians. Well, I was only 18, so I didn't qualify for that. And as luck would have it, Robert O'Neill, who was a former superintendent, lived in Speedway. He and my dad knew each other. My dad said, well, maybe there's something at the state police. I'll ask him. He did. And the state police had just created a position within the communications division called police dispatcher, which didn't require you to have a FCC communications license.
Okay. So you were on the first floor?
On the first floor, right inside off of Ohio Street.
Now, who did you dispatch for there?
Well, as it worked out, by the time I hired on, they had actually moved the car dispatching process out to the Indianapolis Post at Stout Field.
Right.
And we did very little on the radio. Most of what we did was actually on the teletype, as opposed to a computer.
Yeah.
Transferring messages from one district to another and out of state, and a lot of other stuff. But
right. Yeah, but you were kind of maybe the early stages of the operations center type thing there.
Yeah, our operations actually was right next door to us.
Okay. So what was your hours there when you first started? How did that work out? Was it long shifts or?
No, they were 8-hour shifts.
Okay.
A normal shift, but of course we worked midnights, so 24-hour coverage. And when my first midnight shift came around, my supervisor, who was training me at the time, called me, wanted to know where I was because I read the schedule wrong and thought for Friday, I came in Friday at midnight and says, no, you come in Thursday at midnight for Friday. And so I got down there and we worked 14 straight midnights.
Oh my
and then
word.
had 5 days off, and you needed those days off to recover, believe me.
Yeah, you didn't have any time to do anything because you were sleeping probably.
Right, sleep and work is about all you did, eat if you had time.
So how long were you at communications then?
I was there from December of '69 until I went to recruit school, which was, I think we started in October or November of '73.
What was the process for recruit school? How long was it, and do you recall?
Well, the process to apply and everything was pretty much the same as it is now.
Okay.
You know, your application, your testing, physical interviews, and so on.
The actual recruit school, how long was it?
The recruit school was 12 weeks.
Okay.
I think we were the second 12-week school. Before that, it had been 8.
Okay.
And now I think it's, 27?
26,
27,
something,
something like that, yeah.
And it's not in the same place. You were the last class, I understand, at the location you were at?
I think we were maybe the second to the last class
Okay.
in Bloomington at IU, and we stayed in the Poplars Hotel,
Is it
and that's where we had all our classes and everything.
okay? Was it a Monday through Friday? Were you there on the weekend or?
No, Monday through Friday, and there were a couple weekends where we ended up having to stay for different things, part of the training, but
Yeah.
most of the time we were gone on the weekends.
What was your class size?
We started with 62, and I think we graduated 49.
All right. And where did you go when you came out then?
Originally, I went to Dunes Park Post up near Chesterton,
Yeah.
right where it was right actually in the interchange area where 49 and 20 come together up there.
Was that one of the old brick buildings?
Yes, it was one of the original
Okay.
WPA posts.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So how long were you there then?
I was there about a month.
Okay.
And I think there was a plan in place because a lot of people out of my class, an overwhelming majority of people out of my class went to northern Indiana.
All right.
And I think plans were in the works at that time to reopen the toll road as a district in and of itself instead of letting the districts that it passed through,
Yeah.
cover it.
Yeah.
And so I was there a little over a month, and then transferred. Everybody out of my class was transferred up to the toll road all the way across northern Indiana, with the exception of South Bend. They had enough volunteers out of the South Bend post that nobody out of my class went up there from South Bend. But so we all ended up, and it was all my classmates, so it was kind of neat. We were working together and everything.
Now, did you have an FTO program then? Did you ride with an officer for a while?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, I rode with at least two. Harry Armstrong was
Okay.
a trooper. He was. They put me with him because he liked to hit traffic.
All right. Yeah.
And then later on, I rode with Terry Justak, and they put me with him because he liked to do criminal
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
And so it worked out really well.
So
I
you
kind of
learned
got
both
it.
aspects in.
Yeah,
So you're there at the toll road. How long did you stay there then?
5 years.
Wow. That's kind of unique from coming from Speedway. Did you have a chance to go back and you just didn't take
Oh
it?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. After 2 years, I could have transferred back home. I liked it up there. I had friends up there.
Yeah.
It was interesting working up there. You would think the toll road, might be strictly traffic and be kind of boring back and forth going east and west all the time. But there was an awful lot of criminal activity that came across the toll road that we would, occasionally spot and get involved in. We actually had. I never really confirmed this, but was told that back when they were looking for Patty Hearst,
Right. Yeah.
that she was in a van that was stopped by a trooper on the toll road.
Is that right?
And never really confirmed that. But there's between Detroit and Chicago and everything,
Yeah.
it was
Straight
there's
shot.
a lot of criminal activity came across it.
So where did you go after your toll road?
I transferred back down here to Indianapolis, and worked the west side of Marion County for 5 years about.
Now, were you married up at toll road, or did you?
No, I married after I got back down here.
Okay, so that's a good time. You did have a bunch of good times up there then. So you came back down to the west side of Marion County, worked the road for how long then?
5 years.
Okay. And then did what?
Then I put in for a corporal's position. They just kind of created the corporal's position, brought it back, and was actually using the position, the rank again, as the duty officer at the post.
Kind of ran the post whenever you're there.
Yeah, and I got that position and I was there about 5 years, and then went into the laboratory from there.
What made you want to do that? What made the laboratory? What caught your eye on that?
Well, I think in part it was I'd gotten into shooting, doing competitive shooting,
Yeah.
and Bob Conley and Bill Kuhn both worked in the lab. I got to know them.
Good
And-
shots.
Yeah. And I could tell you a story about Conley and me shooting together, but I won't now. But I got to know them and talk to them and got interested. And then the opening came up for the laser system specialist. The position was called, but it dealt with fingerprints. And I'd always thought fingerprints was kind of an interesting way of identifying people. So I jumped at that and was lucky enough to get it.
So you went in there through the fingerprints, and I'm sure it changed immensely since when you started to what we've got now, from the fingerprint cards to the electronic stuff we got now.
Oh yeah. We started out You know, when I went in, the laser was the latest thing, looking for fingerprints, latent prints, that is.
Right.
And
At a crime scene or something.
Right. And but for the most part, it was still throwing some black powder around and dusting and lifting, just like they'd done since the early 1900s when it first started. But when the laser came along, it kind of started the technology movement as such in fingerprints, and that led from one thing to another, and we ended up now with the live scan fingerprints, and everything's electronic, and AFIS that can not identify but can lead you to possible prints of the same from the same person that are in our system.
So did you go into the laboratory as a sergeant?
Yes.
Okay. Did you go to first sergeant or just straight to lieutenant then?
No, just went to lieutenant.
Okay. And what year did that happen then?
2007.
Now, were you in the same area, or was it kind of give you a more administrative duties then, and over an area more over the lab then?
Well, no, I wasn't in the same area. I'd been in fingerprints, footwear, and tire impressions the whole time I'd been in the lab. And then when I was promoted to lieutenant, I was over the crime scene investigators around the state, and the evidence clerks that are assigned to the districts. And I went from one day being responsible for nobody but myself to the next day being responsible for 46 people, and I'm like, what
and
I'm
have I done? I'm sure they gave you a class or something on that, didn't they?
No. I learned by the seat of my pants. In fact, I told at one of our first meetings we had with all the CSIs after I got the job, I said, I am Murphy's Law that says the one with the most authority will have the least amount of knowledge in any situation. I said, that's me. So if I make a mistake, please tell me.
But you can rely on their expertise and do that. So you're talking about tire impressions and footwear also. So that you were working in the lab also. Is that utilized a lot still?
Oh, yeah.
Is it?
Yeah.
And is it still the mold? Is that what you go with? And the photographs, of course?
We do molds or casts, impressions of tires, but also work off of photographs. We can work off of photographs if they're taken properly, and compare them to the tires. There's advantages one over the other, but both are very, very reliable, very, very good processes to use to try to make an identification.
Well, and you may have to kind of putting you on the spot here, but 1979 you started, or what's the biggest thing that you've seen come through the police world from the time you started, or the biggest change, or do you got anything off the top of your head that?
Well, like I say, technology is kind of taking over everything, and is creating new equipment and stuff that we can use. And just within the last year and a half before I retired, we purchased through a grant through Criminal Justice Institute of Indiana, we purchased 3 3D laser scanners for scanning crime scenes as well as documenting high-risk buildings, government buildings, public schools, or schools in general, where you can create 3D models or images of a crime scene or a building right on the computer.
Wow! And
it's an amazing. It's like stepping into Buck Rogers, for real. It's you can take. It's very time consuming. We're kind of in the infancy with this when I started, when I left, and it's still evolving. But you can take these scanners. We scanned as a training process. Speedway High School let us come in and do our training there, and we ended up scanning their entire building.
Wow. And
then the process of putting all those scans together to create this 3D image on the computer is what is taking quite a while. Wow. But
well, we've learned a lot here from Rick, and we're down to our last 30 seconds, so we're going to have to close out. But can you come back sometime?
Oh, I'm glad to.
Great. Well, Rick, Lieutenant Rick Hammer, recently retired from the Indiana State Police with 46 years, 27 days. I hope you have a great retirement.
Oh, thank you.
I appreciate you being here today. Well, again, you've been listening to the Indiana State Police Roadshow, brought to you by the Indiana State Police Alliance and Cops for Kids. We appreciate you listening here to our roadshow. Make sure you tune again next week when we'll have another fantastic roadshow. Roadshow is out.